Well, hello there, St. Luke's. Good to be back with you all for this midweek message. I'm sitting here actually on Monday, so this is only midweek if the week started on Thursday or Friday, I guess. At any rate, the Monday message, Monday. At any rate, here we are on Monday. It is April 14th, and I wanted to go ahead and get out this message before all of the Holy Week activities begin apace on Wednesday with Spy Wednesday, which is traditionally the day that is understood when Judas betrays Jesus to the leaders there, the Sadducees and Pharisees. And so, at any rate, we're going to hear a little bit more about that, I believe, although I'm not the preacher, on Wednesday. But before then, I wanted to just address, some of you have been wondering what this winged ox symbol that we have been using around the church and various things, most notably at our conference. What is that? Where did it come from? Why are we using it? Those are all fine questions. And so I thought I would take the opportunity to address it briefly here, because the winged ox is an ancient symbol for the St. Luke, our patron saint. And so we thought it was appropriate and kind of cool, actually, to incorporate a picture of the winged ox into some of our some of our bulletins, some of our conference, just because it's kind of neat. And actually, Father Jacob went on to, I think, ChatGPT or one of the various AI image modules, and actually design this. So it's cool. It's ours. So we don't have to, copy. It's not, we haven't copyrighted it, but at any rate, we don't have to worry about that. So we can put it on, for instance, our coffee cups that many of you have from our conference. But where does this come from, the winged ox? Well, and then I thought you'd ask. And so I grokked it. We don't have to Google things anymore. We can go to Grok it's part of X, formerly known as Twitter. Eventually we won't say that. But anyway, I grokked it, and I wanted you to hear it so you could hear it. It goes like this. St. Luke's symbol is a winged ox because it represents one of the four living creatures described in Ezekiel 1:10 and Revelations 4:6-8, which early Christian tradition associated with the four gospel writers. The ox, a beast of burden, symbolizes strength, sacrifice, and service, aligning with Luke's gospel, which emphasizes Jesus' sacrifice and ministry to the humble. The wings signify the divine inspiration of the gospel. The imagery was formalized in Christian iconography by the 4th century, notably in works like Jerome's commentaries. Okay, so that's cool enough for anyone. That's just so you know, I will try to put up a little picture right here or here. One of the two. But anyway, so when you see that around, you'll know. I believe Matthew, the symbol for Matthew is an angel. The symbol for Mark is a lion, and the symbol for John is a. I should probably have grokked that before I went ahead and just started recording this. So one sec. Grok to the rescue. So Matthew is an angel, that's correct. Emphasizes Jesus' divine human nature and genealogy. Mark is the winged lion, reflects Jesus' royal dignity and resurrection. John is an eagle, symbolizes Jesus' divine nature and soaring theology. So there you have it. The four creatures represented by the four gospels to the four corners of the earth, and there you have it with the symbol. So, okay, all right, now on to Holy Week. So Holy Week, we are beginning on Wednesday, so it's 2 days from now, or at least a day after you're watching this. And we're Spy Wednesday, as I mentioned before. It will begin a service at 10:30. So come if you would like to learn more about Holy Week and begin your your Holy Week devotion if you haven't already, beginning with this past Sunday. I mean, I should mention, I think I mentioned last week, I view Holy Week as sort of one long sermon, opening up the question and all of the various concerns on Palm Sunday, and then walking with Jesus through this week all the way to the empty tomb. And so this is sort of how I see it. I am breaking up the sermons this year for the first time that I've ever, since I've had the authority to do so. But that's because I want to, and I'm looking forward to hearing Kelly and Jacob in their respective sermons as well. But at any rate, it's still considered sort of one long extended sermon, and so that was opening yesterday with the idea that the Palm Sunday, the triumphal entry, all the way through Spy Wednesday, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and then ultimately Easter. And so that's how, if you want a little devotional tip, you could view it as you walk along this week, despite all of the competing sort of spectacles around us, most notably the heritage, which I am as excited about as, well, not as anyone, but as much as your average golf fan is. Nevertheless, it is secondarily of importance in my life, if not tertiarily at the moment, from Holy Week observance. So to that end, I want to invite you to some Holy Week observances. So as I said, 10:30 on, I'm looking here at our bulletin, 10:30 at the Eucharist on Wednesday, followed by a luncheon. This is new for us. We're going to continue the lunch, but we're having a special Holy Week sort of Lenten lunch series. So it's not a speaker exactly, but some of you know Levon Stevens is coming back to sort of give us some musical offerings, followed by two vignettes by our very own St. Luke's Players. Now the difference here on this Wednesday from the others is that we're going to have lunch at 11:30 sharp. And I say sharp because we have to end at noon sharp and then move into the sanctuary to sing with Levon and watch the players. And so that's going to be that's an appropriate place also for sort of a devotional time to, as I said before, to continue your Holy Week a sort of contemplative, prayerful sort of walk. And so that's what's going to happen this Wednesday. So please come. If you do not want to eat lunch, that's fine. Just come at noon. But it's in the sanctuary. So I mean, you'll get the idea, because people will either be walking or the grounds fellowship is empty, and you'll hear music, beautiful music coming from the sanctuary. So I'm not too worried about that, except for the fact that we need you to RSVP if you would like lunch. So please call the office before, by Tuesday, whenever that is. That perhaps is today that you're watching this, but I don't know. At any rate, it's tomorrow from the recording of this. All right. So Maundy Thursday it's Maundy, not Monday Thursday, which I was under the misunderstanding for many years. I was telling Jacob I misspoke. I said Triduum instead of Triduum, and that's in part because I was first taught incorrectly that the word was pronounced Triduum, and so I have a segment in my brain that just refuses to be corrected. It's like for many years I said, and I still wrestle with saying mischievous and grievous, until someone who loved me dearly said, you've been mispronouncing that in this reverent part of the prayer for the better part of the last 3 years that we've worked together. And I said, no, I did not know that, and someone finally loved me enough to tell me. So there we go. So it's mischievous, grievous, and triduum. So anyway, at any rate, that begins on Maundy Thursday, is the first day of the Triduum, which is the 3 holy days of Easter. And so Maundy Thursday, from the Latin mandatum, the new commandment I give you to love one another, Jesus in the upper room, we are going to sort of reflect on that and begin the real walk of these 3 days with Jesus and the disciples. And so we will have what's called the stripping of the altars. If you've never participated in a Maundy Thursday service, I really recommend it to you. It's very moving. It becomes more moving each and every year for me for all sorts of reasons, not the least of which one of the considerations that you take from Maundy Thursday is walking with the disciples. When we strip the altar, what we're doing is taking the means of grace and the hope of glory away from you for a season, for just a brief amount of time. But that's what we're doing. We're taking away the elements. We're stripping the church. We're symbolically stripping the altar the way that Christ himself was stripped and beaten and displayed for all on the cross. And so there's a lot of symbolism involved. But if you have come to our church, or you've become part of the worshiping community that is fed by the body and blood of Christ and word and sacrament, and has become by God's grace a crucial part of your spiritual nourishment, well, then to the prospect of that being removed is quite shocking, really, to think of life without the means of grace and the hope of glory. And so anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead because I'm preaching that night, and so I'm sure you might have just heard a little foretaste of it. At any rate, we will be doing this 5:30 on Maundy Thursday. So that will be come, and if you haven't come in particular, I really commend it to you. So there you have it. Okay, Good Friday. We're actually having 2 Good Friday services, prayer book services from our liturgy, which will one at 8 o'clock and one at noon. They will be very similar. They will follow the same liturgy, but same sermon. But we will have them obviously at different times, and we will be taking communion from the reserved sacrament because there is no communion to be had on Eucharistic prayers said on Good Friday per our tradition. So at any rate, it's come. If you haven't seen any of this, if you haven't experienced it, then I really commend it to you because it's part of the holy pageantry of our liturgy and tradition, which continues to help, as Luther would say, drive Christ home. Was Christum treibet. What drives Christ into your heart, and it's not just through your head, it's not just through your senses, it's through the entirety of our bodies. We are multi-sensory, sort of equipping and conforming church, and so we pull out all the stops appropriately around Easter because, well, this is the hope around which everything else revolves. Without this day, without this week. Well, I don't even know what life would be like without it, frankly. And I don't know how people who don't have this hope, what their lives revolve around. But at any rate, I've spent my life and it turns out, by God's grace, will have spent my entire life preaching in the hopes of bringing more and more people to the saving knowledge, and then by extension, the hope of Christ in them. And at any rate, so there we go. That's why we pull out all the stops. And so then on Easter Sunday, we have 7 a.m., 9 a.m., and 11 a.m. services. And so we will be having our Easter liturgy service, celebration. Christ is risen. The Lord is risen indeed. Alleluia. The Alleluias will come back. We get to say them again. We will be celebrating the hope, but until we're not there yet, and that's just my final word to you all, and it's to myself also, is that there is of course, every week is a holy week, and every Sunday is a celebration of the resurrection, and I understand all that, and I'm sympathetic to people who say, that perhaps we're making too much of this one particular week. That being said, I do think that there are, as we know, seasons and rhythms and in the Christian life, and I think that it is appropriate to step back, to slow down, and to really let the events of this week in particular at this time, after our 40 days of walking through Lent, in whatever capacity you were observing that, it's appropriate to sit back and pray and expect, in fact, the Holy Spirit to speak to you, to teach you, and to enlighten you in a new and refreshing way. Wherever you are currently, there's always room for more conformity to Christ, more growth, more sort of self-revelation, and more a deeper appreciation of what God has done for you on the cross through His Son for your redemption and for His glory. So. Okay, well, I hope to see you really at all of it. I hope to see some of you, but please consider particularly some of the midweek services, and if you haven't ever experienced them, then adding that as part of your Holy Week devotion, and I can assure you, you will be edified, uplifted, and comforted through the process. Okay, until I see you all again, take care, and God bless.